When I was 9 years old, Halloween was the best night of the year. My friend Jack and I looked forward to it for weeks. That year, like every year, we dressed up, grabbed our pillowcases, and went out to collect candy from the neighbors. The streets were full of kids dressed as monsters, superheroes, and ghosts. The air was cool, the sky was dark, and the only light came from street lamps and the glowing jack-o'-lanterns sitting on porches. Jack and I had a plan. We would hit every house in our neighborhood before it got too late. At first, everything felt normal, like any other Halloween. People smiled at us, dropped candy into our bags, and told us to have fun. But as we walked farther from home, the streets got quieter. Fewer kids were out, and the houses became more spread out. It was after dark when we noticed him. He stood at the end of the street, near an old house that no one had lived in for years. The man was tall, wearing dark clothes, and just stood there watching us. At first, we didn't think much of it. Maybe he was a parent waiting for his kids. But as we kept walking, we realized he was still there, still watching us. His face was hard to see, hidden in the shadows. We whispered to each other about him, but tried to ignore it and keep going. Our bags were getting heavy with candy, and I was ready to head home soon. We were on a stretch of road where there weren't many houses, just a few trees and empty lots. That's when I noticed something strange. The man was walking too. Slowly, but he was definitely following us. Jack noticed it too, and his face tightened. He glanced back over his shoulder more and more often. "Let's just keep going," I said, trying to act like it didn't bother me. But inside I felt uneasy. There was no reason for him to be following us like that. After a few more minutes, the man did something even stranger. He started calling out to us. His voice was rough, low, and hard to hear at first. But as we kept walking, it became clearer. "Hey kids, you want more candy?" His voice echoed down the empty road. We stopped walking, and I turned around to look at him. In his hand, he held up a large plastic bag stuffed full of candy. I felt a weird mix of excitement and confusion. More candy? That sounded great, but something about it felt wrong. Why would a grown man be standing alone in the dark, offering candy to random kids? I didn't know, but the thought of more candy made me curious. "I think we should go over," I said to Jack, but he shook his head, his face pale. He grabbed my arm, holding me back. "No, we need to leave," he said. "That guy's not right. I think he wants to take us." I didn't want to believe him. Jack was always more careful than me, always worrying about things that didn't seem like a big deal. But this time, I could see real fear in his eyes. Something about the way the man stood there staring was off. I started to doubt myself. We stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. The man took a step closer. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was too wide, too forced, like he was pretending to be nice. He waved the bag again. "Come on," he said. "It's Halloween. I've got plenty of candy for you." That was when I knew Jack was right. This wasn't normal. Something was wrong with this man. We needed to get out of there, and fast. "Run," Jack whispered. We didn't waste any more time. We turned and sprinted down the street, our bags of candy banging against our legs. The man's footsteps started behind us, heavy and fast. He was chasing us. My heart pounded in my chest. I could hear the man getting closer, his breath loud in the quiet night. I didn't look back. I couldn't. All I could think about was getting home and getting to safety. Our house was only a few streets away, but it felt like miles. My legs burned as I pushed myself to run faster. Jack was right beside me, not saying a word, just running with everything he had. We reached our street, but the man was still behind us, closer than ever. I could hear the thud of his boots on the pavement, and it made me feel like he was right at my back. We cut across a neighbor's yard, jumping over their bushes, and ran up to my house. I fumbled with the door handle, my hands shaking, but finally got it open. Jack and I threw ourselves inside, slamming the door behind us. We stood there in the hallway, breathing hard, listening. For a few seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then we heard footsteps outside, slow and heavy. They stopped right in front of our door. My heart raced as I held my breath, waiting. The man was right there, just outside, but he didn't try to come in. After a moment, the footsteps started again, moving away. We peeked through the window, watching as he disappeared into the night. He didn't look back. He just walked off like nothing had happened. We didn't tell anyone about what happened. I don't know why. Maybe we thought no one would believe us, or maybe we just wanted to forget it. But I never forgot the way that man had stared at us, followed us, and chased us. Even now, every Halloween, I think about him, wondering who he was and what he really wanted. Jack and I never talked about it again, but I think he remembers too. It's the kind of thing you don't forget, no matter how hard you try. Before we get into the next story, if you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks. In 2019, my old college friends and I decided to throw a Halloween party. It had been years since we graduated, and though we'd all gone our separate ways, this party was supposed to be our way of reconnecting. Alex, the most successful of us, offered to host the party at his house, a big place in the suburbs. It was perfect. We all agreed, figuring it would be nice to relive the good old days, just without the cheap beer and cramped dorm rooms. The night of the party, the house was decorated in full Halloween spirit. Jack-o'-lanterns glowed eerily on the front porch. Fake cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and eerie music played softly in the background. The whole place had this warm, nostalgic vibe. You could tell Alex had spent some serious money on making the night special. I arrived a little late, dressed as a zombie nurse, just something quick and easy I threw together. When I walked in, I saw familiar faces laughing and drinking. We'd all gotten older, some a little grayer, but for the most part, we were the same people. Old friends greeted me with hugs and comments about how long it had been since we last saw each other. But as the night went on, I noticed something strange. There was this guy. He stood out, even among the costumed crowd. Everyone was wearing typical Halloween stuff, witches, vampires, movie characters, but this guy had a human-shaped mask on. Not just any mask either. It was like someone took a real human face and stretched it over his own. The eyes were sunken in, the skin pale and almost waxy. It was unsettling, to say the least. His costume was just wrong. At first, I figured he was one of Alex's friends from work, someone I didn't know. But every time I glanced at him, he was just standing there, motionless, not joining in the conversations or even drinking. He didn't speak to anyone, just hovered in the corner, observing. His presence was so off that it gnawed at the back of my mind the entire night. Eventually, Alex noticed him too. I saw him walk over to the guy and ask something, probably something along the lines of, "Who are you?" or "Whose friend are you?" But the guy didn't respond, he just stood there. I could see Alex getting frustrated, his face tense under the dim party lights. Alex, being Alex, wasn't going to let it go. He reached up, probably intending to make the guy remove his mask. That's when everything changed. In one quick motion, the guy stepped back, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a gun. The music, the laughter, the casual conversations, it all stopped in an instant. Everyone froze, staring at this masked man with wide eyes, trying to comprehend what was happening. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Everyone stay quiet," he said in a low, gruff voice. "Empty your pockets, phones, wallets, jewelry, put it all on the floor." The air was thick with fear. It felt like the room had shrunk, like the walls were closing in around us. I didn't even think about running or fighting back. None of us did. It was as if the threat of the gun had paralyzed us all. Slowly, people began reaching into their pockets and dropping their belongings on the floor. The clink of jewelry, the thud of wallets. It was the only sound in the room apart from my shallow breaths. I glanced around, trying to see if anyone was doing something, anything, to stop this. But no one moved. Everyone was just frozen in place, their faces pale. I could see Alex's eyes darting from side to side, trying to figure out what to do next. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, Megan. She had been my college roommate, quiet but smart. Without making a sound, she was inching her way toward the bathroom, slipping behind the crowd, her eyes fixed on the door. My stomach tightened. If the guy saw her, but he didn't. His focus was entirely on the group in front of him. Megan made it to the bathroom, disappearing behind the door just as the masked man turned his head. I held my breath, praying he hadn't seen her. "Everyone stay calm," he repeated, sweeping the room with the gun. "No one needs to get hurt." Minutes passed like hours. He walked around, picking up the pile of stolen items and shoving them into a bag. I couldn't stop shaking, the fear gripping me like a vice. Then, as quickly as it had started, it was over. The man backed toward the door, still holding the gun up, then slipped out into the night. We didn't move for a moment, still too stunned to process what had just happened. It wasn't until I heard the faint sound of sirens that I let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The police showed up moments later, Megan having called them from the bathroom. She was shaking but safe. When they arrived, they searched the area, but the masked man was long gone. He'd vanished into the night like a ghost. The aftermath was surreal. We all gave our statements to the police, trying to piece together what had just happened. As it turned out, the guy wasn't just some random criminal. He was part of a gang, a group of thieves that had been crashing parties like ours for months. They'd blend in, wait for the right moment, and then rob everyone blind. This time, though, he hadn't counted on the cops showing up so quickly. They caught him a few days later. The mask, the gun, all of it was found in his hideout, along with a bunch of stolen goods from other parties. The police said we were lucky. Luckily, Megan had the guts to sneak away and call for help. Luckily, no one was hurt. But even now, years later, I can't shake the image of that mask. It wasn't just the robbery that haunts me. It was the way that mask looked as if it had been alive. And sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I can still feel those hollow eyes watching me, even though I know he's locked away. The memory of that night will never fade. It's burned into my mind like the face on that mask, pale, emotionless, and far too real. We didn't believe any of the stories when we first moved into the old house. People talked. That's what small towns were like. Every time we met someone, they'd mention the same thing. That house is haunted, they'd say. But we laughed it off. We didn't believe in ghosts or spirits. We wanted to fix up the place, make it ours, and forget all the nonsense. It was an old house, sure. The paint was chipped, the floors creaked with every step, and cobwebs were in the corners. But it had charm. There was something about it that felt right. Maybe it was the high ceilings or the wide windows. It had potential. That's what we focused on. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. We fixed the windows, patched up the holes in the walls, and started getting comfortable. But then Halloween came. The air felt different that night, colder, heavier. The wind rattled the windows, and the moon hung low in the sky. My wife and kids were upstairs getting ready for bed, but I was still awake, sitting by the fire in the living room. The flames flickered, casting shadows on the walls, and for a moment, it felt like the house was breathing with me. That's when I heard it, a soft sound, almost like a whisper coming from below. At first, I thought it was just the wind or the house settling, but it kept going, a low, constant murmur. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a flashlight and headed for the basement. The stairs creaked as I descended, the wooden steps groaning under my weight. The basement was unfinished, with a cold cement floor and shelves lined with old, forgotten tools. I swept the flashlight around, and everything seemed as it always was, until I saw the door. It was tall and out of place, sitting against the far wall. I knew for a fact it wasn't there before. We'd been down here many times, cleaning and organizing. I stepped closer, shining the light over it. The door was wooden, but looked old, older than the house itself. It was covered in strange symbols I didn't recognize, almost like they were carved by hand. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the rough surface. It felt hollow, as if there was nothing solid behind it. A part of me wanted to turn around, to go back upstairs and pretend I hadn't seen it. But something pulled me in, a quiet urge, almost like the whispers had returned, urging me forward. Without thinking, I twisted the doorknob. The door creaked open slowly, revealing darkness on the other side. Not the kind of darkness you find in a room with the lights off. This was deeper, heavier, like staring into a void. I stepped back, unsure of what I was seeing. But then I noticed it. A hallway, long and narrow, stretching out into the distance. There was no way it could fit in the house. The basement wasn't that big. I hesitated for a moment, but then I heard the whispers again. This time, they were clearer, coming from the walls of the hallway. Soft voices, almost like they were just out of reach, echoing in the darkness. I don't know why, but I took a step inside. The hallway stretched on forever, with no end in sight. The walls were cold, made of the same rough stone as the door, and they seemed to hum with energy. My footsteps echoed as I walked, and now and then I thought I saw something, a flicker of movement at the far end. Shapes, figures, moving in and out of the shadows, but whenever I looked directly at them, they were gone. I turned around, ready to leave, but the door was no longer there. Panic started to rise in my chest. The hallway was all there was, stretching in both directions, endless. The whispers grew louder, like they were coming from every corner of the space around me. My heart pounded, and the cold air made it hard to breathe. I don't know how long I walked, trying to find a way out, but it felt like hours. The figures at the end of the hallway started to become clearer. They were human-shaped but wrong, twisted. Their limbs moved in ways they shouldn't, and their faces, I couldn't describe them. They were just shadows, but they felt like something more. Finally, I found it again, the door. It was standing there as if it had always been, waiting for me. I rushed toward it, grabbing the handle and pulling it open. As soon as I stepped through, the door slammed shut behind me. I was back in the basement, but everything felt different. The air was heavier, and the whispers, they hadn't stopped. I could still hear them, faint but constant, coming from the walls. My wife came downstairs asking me what I was doing. I couldn't explain it to her. How could I? She wouldn't believe me. The house wasn't the same. Shadows moved where there shouldn't be any. The floorboards creaked at night, even when no one was walking on them. And the whispers, they were always there, just on the edge of hearing, growing louder each night. The worst part, the door wasn't gone. It appeared again, in different parts of the house. Sometimes in a closet, sometimes behind a bookshelf. We'd find it, close it, and try to move on. But it always came back. We didn't know what to do. The whispers told us things, dark things. They wanted us to open the door again. They promised us peace, but I knew better. The door wasn't just a door. It was a portal, a gateway to something beyond this world. And once opened, it wouldn't leave us alone. We tried to seal it, to close it for good, but I'm afraid it's too late. Whatever we let out, it's not going back. And now, it's watching, waiting for the next time we open that door.